everybody. I am Dr. Cindy Howard, your host of Positively Altered. I am a chiropractic internist and nutritionist, and we love to talk about all things health, wellness related, no filter, and just having a great conversation. It makes me think about when I was a young kid and we think about sports, and I always wanted to be an Olympic gymnast. Well, that didn't turn out so great, but I also wanted to be a professional athlete. And then when I grew up and became a chiropractic physician, I wanted to take care of professional athletes. Well, I got to do little tiny bits of that, but my guest coming up got to do a lot of it. So what I want you to do is go grab your favorite hockey stick or baseball bat or any sports apparatus, cuddle up on your favorite chair, take a quick listen to our sponsors, and come right back. You're not going to want to miss this.
Hello, my name is Heather Lord, and I am the COO of Professional Health Products. Cutting corners is an all too common practice in the dietary supplement industry. When my father founded Professional Health Products, he sourced the cleanest, most biologically active ingredients from around the globe. Today, that commitment remains, which is why the finest healthcare practitioners, like Dr. Cindy, have trusted us for more than 40 years. We oversee the entire process in our manufacturing facility, from sourcing and formulation to manufacturing and labeling. Today, we offer over 300 unique products that can be tailored to the nutritional and homeopathic needs of each individual. Most recently, we launched a proprietary genetic test, allowing our practitioners to get even more dialed in to their patients' health. To learn more about Professional Health Products, please talk to your practitioner or visit our website at phpltd.com.
Today, your life is going to be altered. I'm Dr. Cindy.
Welcome to Infinity. We have worked hard to create an electronic claims website that is simple and user-friendly. This is the public side. You can log into your personal web portal here. This is your dashboard. You can personalize it to your liking here. Our main focus has been to allow you to submit and edit claims as easy as possible. You will find our claims editor and claims processing is simple to use and straightforward. Our quick action bar is where you can find your most important information. Most of these icons will take you directly to the claims the number represents. You can easily view if you have any messages in your inbox of any unread alerts by looking for these blue numbers. To view the rest of our training videos to get the most of your Infinity experience, click this icon. We hope you find this web portal simple and easy to use. Thanks for letting us serve you.
I'm Dr. Cindy. Who wouldn't want to join me for the Positively Altered podcast? I don't know if cuddling up to your favorite baseball bat is really that comfy, but I'm glad you made it back because I want to introduce you to a fantastic guest, Dr. Carlo Guadagno. Welcome to the Positively Altered podcast. I'm so glad you're here.
Dr. Cindy, I appreciate you so much for inviting me here to your podcast. That is so sweet of you, and get to talk to you again. We recently got to be in Orlando, right, at the Florida Chiropractic Association convention. I got to see you there, and any opportunity I get to talk to you is always a victory in my book.
Well, this is going to be fun. We're going to take this in a couple different directions, I hope, today. Let's start out with just something really simple. You come from Rhode Island and you wound up in Miami. How do you make the trek from Rhode Island to Miami?
Well, that's my family. My dad started getting tired of shoveling snow, and we packed everything up and went down to Florida. And that was in the 60s. That was like 1968.
Wow. So you're not shoveling snow, but you are fighting humidity.
I've acclimatized. So
Have
I love that humidity. I love that heat.
Oh my gosh, absolutely crazy. Well, down there in Miami, you are doing some really cool stuff, right? Because you're an associate professor. See, I have to go back to school to learn how to say those words correctly. An associate professor at National University of Health Sciences, right? Teaching all of these fantastic kids how to grow up and be a chiropractor. But what I think is really awesome is the path that you took in sports. So I was a, wannabe Olympic athlete, right? And then a wannabe chiropractic sports physician. And now I'm a podcast host. Let's talk a little bit about that sports realm. How'd you get interested? Why? Why sports?
Well, I think it's very similar to your story, right? So you were a gymnast and weightlifter, very similar to that. My sport was wrestling. So I was a wrestler in high school. I was a wrestler in college, and wasn't quite good enough. For this, some of these sports, you got to really start early to really excel. And my dad is from Italy. My mom is from Colombia. Uh, they were not into sports. They were into pushing me academically, doing my homework, but they didn't know about the Dan Gable camps every summer, right? My the other students that were doing wrestling, they were doing that since they were like 6 years old. So
right.
I didn't quite make it to the Olympics that way as a athlete. But so I became a chiropractor, and really it was a wrestling injury that brought me to a chiropractor's office, and he was the chiropractor at the University of Miami, and I saw what a beautiful office he had, what a charismatic personality he had, and I was pre-med at the time, and I did some research on chiropractic and realized, hey, this sounds really good, helping people without drugs, helping people with nutrition, with exercise, manual medicine. I like that a lot. And I did a little bit more research, and I ended up at Palmer College in Davenport, Iowa in 1985. But I'm now in the Tampa Bay area because the school, National University, is up here in the St. Pete, Tampa Bay area. But I go to Miami all the time because that's where my mom is still. My mom is still there. My nieces, my brother.
See,
So
now I would have pegged you for a dermatologist. You want to know why? Because, and you know this, right? I've got two boys and they both wrestle. The amount of skin diseases that we have had walk
yes.
through this house, I always say that wrestlers are pretty gross. So, how did you not wind up then a dermatologist? You had to have, did you not walk through ringworm and
I was,
impetigo and
yeah. Some of my teammates suffered with those things. Luckily, I never did. I think we cleaned our mats pretty good, but we do pre-participation physicals, and one of the important things is looking for those skin diseases. And there's not a lot of things that will stop you from competing, from being active in sports, but that will having an active herpes gladiatorum will stop you from competing.
Yeah, we've seen that too. I've patched up quite a few skin diseases and diagnosed and treated, and it's very interesting. So let's talk a little bit then about the athlete, right? So we don't have to be an Olympic athlete to take care of ourselves like an athlete, right? So how do you advise people who want to reach a certain level of physicality, let's say, or even that mental capacity? What are some cool things we can do just as somebody who isn't an Olympic athlete to better ourselves?
Well, everything takes time. But we all in this society, right? We want things automatically, and it's not going to work with fitness, with sports. So if you can make a plan, have a calendar, and then have somebody who, like a buddy, to help you and to get on that calendar with you, because you're not going to feel like working out every day. It happens to all of us. But if you've got somebody kind of like that AA, when you're trying to not be an alcoholic, and you got that, what do they call it? Your buddy or your big brother or something.
Your
Your
sponsor,
that's
right? Your
it.
sponsor. Yeah.
You got a sponsor. But I'm talking about maybe somebody else, a buddy that also has similar goals as you, and you can kind of keep each other on track. And so don't just plan out the week, plan out the whole year plan out the whole year. So now you have persistence because it's all about showing up and keep showing up. So if you can do that, that's a big thing. And that affects all of us. I know I'm doing judo now. And I started judo in my old age, and I don't always feel like going to get, beat up on by these young guys. And sometimes I got to force myself.
It's interesting, and I want to talk a little bit about your experience with different types of athletes. I know you work with Olympic athletes and Paralympic athletes. I was watching, I was scrolling on my social media, and there was an Instagram post. Actually, it was a Facebook post from a colleague of ours, and he posted a Olympic weightlifter who and I don't know if you saw it. He at the Paralympics, he bench pressed 500 pounds, no legs. Did you see him?
I did not see that one, but I did see the Paralympic swimmer with no arms,
Like,
who was like a
amazing, right?
torpedo.
So you're talking about showing up. How did these athletes show up? I mean, amazing, right?
Well, I I love working with Paralympic athletes, and between me and you, I think that's my favorite.
Okay.
Um, they are incredible, and they make you feel incredible. So I love the Paralympic athletes. I got to work with them in Chula Vista, which is one of the Olympic training centers in Southern California, right just south of San Diego. Um, and the world champions, they're still competing. Some of these athletes that I worked with. Luckily, here in Pinellas Park, we actually have. I don't know. Did you get to see the wheelchair rugby?
I did not. I did not.
So they call that murder ball. And that
Okay.
was from a movie in like 2004. They did a movie about this, like a documentary, and it's intense. And here in Pinellas Park, there's a team, and this team is the national champion. And the national championships were held here in Tampa, and our sports council from National University provided the medical coverage for the wheelchair rugby national championships. And we've been invited back, and we've done several tournaments with them. And these are mostly wounded warriors, mostly military, that are now in a wheelchair, but they're still that mindset, right? That aggressive mindset is still there, and they take it on the court, and they, beat each other up over there, and they'll knock each other over. It's a lot of fun to watch. So if you get a chance, you got to watch some wheelchair rugby.
I will
Uh,
Google that for sure. So do
Murder
you
ball.
murder I'll Google murder ball and see what comes up. Do you think then, so to your point about the mental capacity of a lot of these athletes, do you find that mentally they're stronger as a result of this, or is their resolve still pretty equal? It's just that they've got to overcome some of the physical challenges.
No, I think because of the challenges they've gone through, everything else is easy. I really do. They've gone through such a hard life. They've gone through some amazing difficulties in their life, that committing to a sport now, that this is everything for them. This sport is how they express themselves. It's They're totally into it, and they don't need any extra motivation to do it, right?
It's
uh,
interesting.
it's amazing to watch these athletes, and they are super athletes. They really are.
Why I think it's a shame, I think, and not that I want to take away from an athlete who doesn't have a physical or mental challenge, but there's so much press around the regular Olympics, right, and TV coverage. Why do you think that's not equal? It's such a shame that we don't get the benefit of the exposure, I think, that these athletes really not only deserve, but I think can be so inspiring to those of us that have our own adversities, whether it's,
Yeah.
sport related or not.
Well, what's within the Olympic Committee control, they're really trying to make it equal. So para means parallel, right? The Paralympics means the parallel Olympics. And if something is parallel, it's not superior or inferior, it's side by side. So the Olympic training centers are now known as the Olympic and Paralympic Training Center. The Olympic Committee is now known as the Olympic and Paralympic Committee. So they're doing their part, providing everything equally to both parties.
That's so great. So great.
Right. But of course, when it comes to TV, that's about money. It's about eyeballs. And the Olympics is always going to get more eyeballs than the Paralympics. And the Paralympics is also something quite in the modern era. It hasn't been around forever. I can't tell you the exact history of it, but it didn't start, I don't think, until the 70s. So, and it's very complex, right? There's so many categories in the Paralympics. Somebody who has lost a limb or is blind, and how blind are you? Are you 50% blind or 80% blind? So there's a lot of controversy in the Paralympics. And somebody who's really, really good in their level, they might get accused of being in the wrong level. Maybe they should be in a level that's a little bit less impaired, right? And that controversy is part of the game. It's consistent all the time. But yes, I'd like to.
There's no drama. There's got to be drama in everything we do in life.
There is lots of drama, and even just being around those athletes, I was privy to a lot of that drama. It's like, that guy shouldn't be in this level, and this guy should be in a different level. It's pretty funny.
So, is there a sport that's not in the Olympics you think should be?
Well, I'm a little prejudiced to this, but there's a sport called Sambo. Have you heard of it, Cindy?
I have not.
Well, some people think, is that the Brazilian dance? I go, no, it's not the Brazilian dance. That's samba.
Right.
Sambo is a mix of wrestling and judo. It's a mix of wrestling and judo. So you do wear the judo gi on the top, and then you wear shorts. And, in judo, you don't grab the legs. And in wrestling, you don't wear a gi, you wear a singlet.
Right.
So in Sambo, you're wearing the gi and you're wrestling, but you're also doing like judo throws. So this was something that I participated in, and that's a really cool story that maybe I'll tell you. It was in the 1986 Olympic Festival. So when sports are brought into the Olympic Festival in the United States, they're trying them out to see maybe if they become an Olympic sport. So we had a whole league of this, but it never became the Olympic sport. They brought in some other things. So they feel like there's already too many grappling sports. Like we got Taekwondo, and we got judo, and we got Greco-Roman wrestling and freestyle wrestling. And so they didn't think Sambo was necessary.
Okay. Now, what about, is there an Olympic sport, in your opinion, that is there that we should pull out?
Well, I didn't really like the breakdancing. But I like breakdancing. I got a few moves myself that I can show you someday. I still do the helicopter that I learned back in 1978. I can still do it. All right.
Oh my gosh. If we were in a facility with a mat, I'd probably ask you to show everybody. But I'll spare you that at the moment. So, okay. So we pull.
But you know what? But they're going to take it out in 2028, right?
Yes.
The next Olympics is at home in LA.
Yes.
And they're not going to have breakdancing.
Okay.
Every venue has that availability where they can bring something in. So judo was brought in by Japan back in the Tokyo Olympics, I think in 1964. Wrestling was going to be taken out. I don't know if you remember that. And I know your boys wrestle, right? Your boys are big wrestlers. They do. I watch them on social media. They're incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun. It's amazing too. Like, I mean, here's a sport that dates all the way back to the beginning, and we're debating whether it should be an Olympic sport, right?
Yeah, because it's all about excitement for the viewer. So what did they do? Wrestling did the right thing. They went back to the drawing board and they said, we got to change the rules up a little bit. We got to make more action. So the same thing in that kind of trickled down to judo, and they changed some of the rules in judo too, to make it more activity. We
Okay.
want to see dramatic throws. We don't want to see people playing patty cake.
Right. I always joke that they're dancing on the mat. They're just circling around and dancing with each other. It's like, come
Yeah.
on,
So
let's shoot and
the
let's
ref
go.
is going to call stalling, and they want to see action in
Okay.
order for the spectator to be entertained. So
Right.
luckily, wrestling they brought it back with a little bit of rule changes.
Nice. Now, as part of Team USA's medical staff, are you going to be in LA then for our next Olympics?
I don't know that yet. Um, I'm probably going to be too old by then.
Oh, no, there's no such thing, Carlo.
There's
No
a
such
lot
thing.
of young whippersnappers coming up that are smarter than me and stronger than me and have more so I'm not putting a lot of marbles in that basket.
All right, so let's assume you're going to retire from that. Is there any Olympic dirt you can share with anybody? Like, is there that story that we just can't get from the media? What goes on behind closed doors?
Well,
are they all sleep? Come on. All right, here, you ready? Are they all sleeping with each other? Come on, that's
well,
what we hear, right? But
let me tell
everybody's
you.
fooling around at the Olympic Village.
So I was in Rio at the Olympic Village in Rio, and we had this big like candy machine, and what it did was it was for condoms, and every condom it said in Portuguese, enjoy the Olympic experience. And I got a picture of that machine, and it was
Mhm.
free. You didn't have to put any quarters or nothing in
Good,
there, and everybody got free condoms. It
good.
was just down the hall from my chiropractic office, and so I could see who was using that machine. And there must have been some incredible parties going on.
Well,
Uh,
you got an area in Florida there called the Villages, right? That has a reputation for little
I've
frisky behavior, right? And
heard
elevated levels of sexually transmitted diseases. I
heard
wonder
all about it.
right? I wonder in the Olympic world if there's like any, comparison. Like how does that match up for the couple weeks that people are in the Olympic Village?
You imagine these young folks that have been training for 4 years, dedicated to their sport in order to make it to the Olympics, and they have sacrificed a many night out. They've sacrificed going out with their friends. They've sacrificed, you can imagine everything that they've sacrificed for 4 years, and they just had their event, and they either won a medal or they didn't win a medal, but it's over. It's over, and they're in the top physical shape. And now they're thinking, hey, I need to catch up on all the sacrifice I just did for the last 4 years. So you can imagine how that feels, right? And you have uh, perfect specimens of male and females just wandering around, and you're in this little Olympic village that is totally sequestered from the world. Um, I didn't get to experience that because I'm there as a medical provider,
Right, right.
and I could be their grandfather. So
Yeah.
and I'm married. Oh, I forgot to tell you that one.
Oh, yeah, that's important. That's important. That's important.
So
Absolutely. Well, and as long as they're not engaging in the sexual activity prior to their event, right? Because we know that can have a profound effect on performance, right? So
well,
it's definitely going to be after.
has there been a research paper about that?
I,
Because
I,
Ronda
well,
Ronda Rousey was asked that on the Tonight Show, I think,
was she?
By Jimmy Kimmel. And what did Ronda say? I forgot what she said.
I don't
I
know, but
forget.
I've heard athletes, on occasion too, talk about how, they've got certain rituals, right? They won't engage in intercourse or any sexual activity for a certain amount of hours prior to. And then there's probably some that insist on it. I'm sure it goes both directions. But it's interesting. I'm sure there is some research we could probably dig up pertaining to that. You know, let's talk about your South America experience. Right, you spent some time down there. It depends where you're listening from as to whether it's down there or over there. Let's talk a little bit about South America. What did you love? What did you learn there?
Well, my dad was a business person. I call my dad Michelangelo because he can do anything. And when I was about in fifth grade, he decided to take a bunch of machinery for costume jewelry manufacturing and take it from Rhode Island. Rhode Island is a big costume jewelry manufacturing state at that time, anyway. And my dad was working with my uncle Luigi, his brother, in Johnston, Rhode Island. They had a company called Ultracraft, which provided all of the crowns for the Miss USA pageant. Um, so my dad said, "Hey, let's take this company down south." So we moved to Columbia in fifth grade, and we spent a couple of years there, and then we moved to Venezuela when Venezuela was the richest country in South America, not like it is today. And the business was great, but my dad decided, you know what, for his kids, let's go back to the United States. So that's when we came back to Miami in the bicentennial year, 1976. But living in South America, which was, a third world country, makes you, changes your values a little bit, and you realize what you have and what you don't have, and what's important, what's not important. And I remember seeing families living in cardboard boxes when I lived in Colombia. We had the most beautiful home I ever lived in was the home we had in Colombia. It was amazing. It had mango trees and almond trees and a fruit called marañón. Have you heard of marañón?
No, let me say Maron. Oh, do it again.
Marañón.
Maron. I can't roll my R's. Maron.
We had one of those
Maron. I
trees,
can't
and it
do it.
was, and actually, you might be interested. It's really good for a sore throat.
Okay.
It's really good for a sore throat. But we had this beautiful home, which I went back to Colombia a few years ago with Team USA because we did the Junior Pan Am Games were there in Cali, Colombia. And I went to Barranquilla, which is where we lived, and I looked for my home, and it was gone. They had built a 12-story building in that where that was, so my home was gone. But by living in South America, really, I realized to appreciate, little things. And I was always happy and content with just having, shelter, a roof over your house, right? And clothes that you wear. And anything else is gravy. Anything else is just, when you see that poverty, right? And then you see people, even though they're poor, they're happy and they're joyful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They whatever they have, they're just happy to have whatever they have.
Yeah, the concentration on things sometimes I think sways us in a direction that isn't so healthy mentally.
Exactly. So
For sure.
I have this struggle now with my 17-year-old daughter,
Now, has she been
where
out of the country?
no.
Okay.
And one of my goals is to take her to visit her family around the world, in Italy, in Colombia, and
Neat.
she needs to see other countries because right now her world is the beach and the high school and the Pilates class. And
No, it's great. I've had the good fortune to be able to take my kids to a handful of places outside of the country and myself as well. And it's always been, I sort of hate the term bucket list because I think if you want to do something, you just do it. It doesn't need to sit in a bucket. But there's always that desire to see more places and experience more cultures. I've learned a tremendous amount from those opportunities. So if okay, you're my travel agent, Carlo, and I'm going to figure out now. Give me your top 3 to 5 places you've been that you would absolutely recommend that I go see.
well, you know what? I think the coffee region in Colombia
Okay.
near Armenia and Pereira is just beautiful, and it's a lot safer now than it was. The Amalfi Coast in Italy, and you've probably been there already.
I've been. It's my favorite. My favorite.
Positano and all that. That's where I took my wife, who had never been to Italy, and that's where we went for our honeymoon.
Great.
And really, then in the United States, I think I love the sequoia redwood forest, and the national parks that we have in the United States are amazing.
They are.
So there's so much to see here too.
Now, where have you been you would never go back?
That I'll never go back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where have I been that I never go back? Well, I've been to Latvia
Okay.
with the bobsled team,
Really?
and it was really cold, and everybody spoke Russian, and I don't see that happening again. Although there was two parts of that, right? Latvia used to be an old Soviet republic, but now they're independent, and so the old Soviet part was very plain and minimalist. But the new modern part of Latvia is very Scandinavian-esque.
Okay.
And so that part was really cool. So the young people actually spoke English, but anybody over 35, you couldn't communicate with. But I still enjoyed my trip to Latvia.
Okay.
Because I'm hanging out with the bobsled team, and Elena Myers Taylor and Lolo Jones, and
I
we
think of that
actually
movie. What was that movie, Carlo, about the bobsledder? What was that?
Cool Runnings,
Cool Runnings.
the Jamaican bobsled team.
Yes.
And
Who would have ever thought, right? I mean,
well, the bobsledders are usually coming from other sports, mainly from track and field. You need somebody to push that sled, and you have to have an incredible acceleration. So sprinters are good bobsledders. And who are the best sprinters in the world? The Americans and the Jamaicans,
mm-hmm.
on this side of, in the Americas anyway. So it was natural for Jamaicans to get a bobsled team. But of course, they need to go along the World Cup and travel to Canada and Lake Placid, New York, and Switzerland, and all those places to do the practices, because they don't have anything in Jamaica.
Yeah,
I
it's
actually
hard to
got,
bobsled down the beach, isn't it?
but there's in this. I was in Lake Placid, New York, which is the Olympic Training Center for the winter sports, and they were doing summer training. So they did it with a sled on train tracks and a hill. So they were still doing their pushing, except instead of ice, it was on little, like a mini train track. But
Wow.
the sled still weighed 400 pounds.
Okay. Yeah, I think I don't know if I've sat in a legit sled. I've actually been to the training center out in Colorado Springs. I took my son out there. He actually met some of the guys who are wrestling for Team USA, which was a really cool experience for him. And we got to go in the gym, and he worked
Yeah.
out a bit. And so I think there was a bobsled, in their little museum. I think I did sit in it, and
Yeah.
that's as close as I want to get to actually bobsledding. So kind of cool, and a whole new respect for the athletes that do that. But I think I'm gonna stay off the ice. I think I'm gonna stay off the ice. So share with me, Carlo. I'm always curious. One of the things that always led me through my journey is really overcoming adversity, right? And as you know, I've walked through Hodgkin's lymphoma 10 years ago, and
Yeah.
I've had my fair share of other challenges, and we won't go down that rabbit hole, right here. But I'm curious, as not only somebody who takes care of people who have had to overcome some serious challenges, have you faced anything that's been difficult, and how'd you get through it?
I can't say anything too serious, but lots of different musculoskeletal issues that I've had that have thrown me off course for a whole season. I've had a labral tear in my shoulder, and I've had some broken bones. And what gets me through it is understanding that our body's potential for healing is amazing. As chiropractors, we understand that, and that's something that I try to let my athletes understand, that they will heal if you treat your body right, the right nutrition, the right rest, all of that, and if you give yourself enough time. So I rehabilitated from my injuries, and sometimes it took a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I always came back. I was always able to come back and fight another day.
I love
But
it.
our bodies are an amazing thing, an amazing work of art, and they will heal if you give it the right nutrients, right, and the right pixie
Very true.
dust.
Right. Absolutely. You sprinkle
The
that
right
pixie
pixie
dust and
dust.
we're golden. So what's next for you in the sports world? What do you want to check off the list? What's in your future?
I always wanted to do the Hawaii Ironman, right? And that was
Okay.
something that was on my list. I said by the time I turned 50. So that's kind of what made me start doing marathons, because you have to do a marathon at the end of that race. So I started running marathons. And then the bike portion was not a big deal. I think I can do 112 miles. And I bought this house. Actually, I live here in Seminole, Florida. I love this house because it was a block from the beach and a block from the Pinellas Trail, where I can bike for 40 miles with no cars. Um, but that swim portion was getting me. I was able to get to like a mile swim, so I've been able to do the Olympic level triathlon, which is about a mile swim. But the 2.5 mile swim, I haven't got that far yet. So uh, some of my students actually they just went and they did that
Okay.
ART certification, and they were
Mm-hmm.
in order to work as a chiropractor at the Hawaii Ironman World Championships. You got to be certified in ART.
Okay.
And a couple of my students just did it, and it was in Colorado Springs actually. And they're excited to do that. They're going to take a week off of school to do that. So I told them, I just was just talking about this. That's kind of was on my bucket list. I wanted to do that when I turned 50, and that was a decade ago, and I haven't made it yet.
Oh my gosh. Well, Carlo, not that you should ever compare yourself to somebody else. So this is going to sound ridiculous, but I'll tell you, I'm really impressed because, if I walk 3 miles with the dog, I give myself a good pat on the back. So, running marathons and biking and swimming that distance will never be in my future. So I'm impressed by even the fact that you're attempting to get there. So it's totally great. Listen, I, I have aspirations in 4 years to show up to the Olympics. I want to see some cool sports, and I'm going to plan on getting out there. So I hope that you are not too old and that they invite you to come take care of Team USA, because I'm going to knock on the Olympic Village door. They're probably going to kick me out, right? I'm sure the security's high, but I'm going to knock on the door and say, Carlo, I want in, and I want the behind the scenes tour, and see, if I can work my way into some of that to get some juice, and then we can come back and share with everybody some more gossip or fun things that transpire at the Olympics.
I love
Do me
it.
a favor. I love chatting with you about this. Hang tight. We're going to take a quick break, listen to a couple of my sponsors because they're super important to me. And then we're going to come right back. We're going to rapid fire some questions. We're going to see what your answers are and see how fun and no filter they are. So hang tight. We're going to be right back. This is your weekly dose of Dr. Cindy, the Positively Altered podcast. Stop, hit that follow button now, and spread the love with Positively Altered. And we're back with Dr. Carlo Guadagno, my friend, chiropractic sports physician with Team USA, associate professor at a chiropractic college that is educating our youth to do all of this fun, exciting medicine and chiropractic work. And now we come to my favorite part of the podcast, because I'm going to ask you some questions you didn't know were coming, Carlo. You ready?
I'm ready. Shoot.
All right, here we go. If you could make snow any color in the world besides white, what color would it be?
Turquoise.
Ooh, that's okay. You know, the favorite color so far is blue, which mortifies me because I don't like blue, but I can buy into the turquoise. I like that. All right, turquoise is good. You know, everybody is always asking the question on some interviews of if there was a person dead or alive that you could have lunch with, who would it be? I actually really don't care. I want to know what the meal would be.
What would be the meal?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I think a nice skirt steak with some chimichurri sauce, some
Where's the
garlic
best
mash.
chimichurri? Oh, I'm sorry, I cut you off. After the
No, some
chimichurri?
garlic mashed potatoes, and probably at one of the Colombian restaurants in Miami.
Oh, okay, for the chimichurri. I have to tell you, the best chimichurri sauce I have ever had, and I cannot remember the name of the restaurant, but it was the steakhouse in the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas.
Okay, I have to remember that.
They had the
I
best chimichurri sauce. It was like I wanted to take like a gallon of it at home, but they wouldn't sell it to me. So you got to go back to Vegas for that. I'm guessing your restaurants, your Colombian restaurants, probably will have Las Vegas beat.
well, last time I was in Vegas, we had some nice dinners. They have some good restaurants there
They
too.
do. They do. Well, next time I'm in Miami, I'm going to ask for the recommendations. Okay. If you could be a professional dancer, singer, or actor, which one would you be?
Well, I think a professional singer would be great.
And
Uh,
what would you sing? What kind of music?
love ballads.
Love ballads. Do you, do you have a favorite one or a favorite performer?
Alejandro Sanz.
And what does he sing?
He sings a lot of romantic Latin music, you know. So you don't have to create a big show. It's a very personal, kind of low key, but it really touches people in the heart, you know.
I love it. And last question. This is the hardest one. You ready?
Okay.
What was your favorite thing about doing the podcast today?
Oh, I got to spend time with you. I got to talk to
Aw,
you. Yeah.
you're so sweet. I know we're always sort of passing, by and getting the quick hug and the quick conversation in,
And
and
we
and
don't
this
get to
was
sit down and talk.
I
So
know, and
this is great. We should
this
do
was
this
great.
every week.
Well, all right, you guys. So here's the deal. From now on, the Positively Altered podcast is only going to star Cindy and Carlo. There will be no other guests. So if you're interested in what we have to say, tune in for the rest of your life. How's that?
Thank you so much, Cindy.
It is my pleasure. So if anybody wants to follow your journey or get in touch with you or become one of your students, how do we find you, Carlo?
Well, I am on social media. My handle is Colitalian for Colombian Italian, and so we like to show off some of the events that we do through our sports council at National University, and we have we have a website, right, at National. It's nuhs.edu.
Love it. And it's my alma mater, not in Florida, but that's where I graduated from. So you've got a little piece of my heart from Illinois that you carried into Florida and now continuing the education. So thank you. My favorite thing about doing the podcast was also spending time with you because I love catching up. And I know we've tried to do it a couple times. So I'm going to mimic what you said. Not very creative and not very original, but very true. So I want to let everybody know this has been the Positively Altered podcast. If you would love to become part of my community and follow, please check me out at drcindyspeaks.com and please pick up a copy of the book, Positively Altered, Finding Happiness at the Bottom of a Chemo Bag, wherever books are sold, or certainly on Amazon. Oh, look, there's Carlo. He's actually got a signed copy of the book. So one day he will sell that on eBay. You'll be able to pick that up for probably about $5 over retail, which will be perfect. Never in the basement bin. And today, I hope just by listening about Carlo's experience and sharing information with you, you all were positively altered.